Welcome back to the Revenue Problem Solvers podcast, where we try to crack the code on growing your business by tackling the challenges that keep revenue leaders up at night. I'm Carl Ortmans, and on today's episode, we're going to dive into the topic of how to build one go-to-market team. Today's podcast is sponsored by the great team at Virtual Causeway. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Your website traffic, it's down. Leads may have dried up. Traditional demand gen, it's kind of dead. AI has changed everything right in front of us. People now learn about you through LLMs, and you would actually never know it. Virtual Causeway helps you flip the script. They don't just chase leads, they create conversations with pre-qualified buyers who are ready to talk. Need to break into a new vertical, fill event seats, book quality meetings? They become your team's extension. Check them out at virtualcauseway.com and mention the show for a special rate. So my guest today is somebody who I've got to know for many years. And my guest is Jeroen Hendriks. So Jeroen and I met five years ago plus now when we went through CRO school together with
CRO
Pavilion.
school, man. We were classmates at that point in time. I think one of the first CRO schools from Pavilion, which was I think still one of my best.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is the first, I think it was the first one outside of the beta test, and then we
Exactly.
were the original group. And he and I have stayed connected, and we've learned so much from each other since. Jeroen has more than 18 years of go-to-market experience. He's held roles in sales and product before moving to marketing, where he's held IC roles all the way through to CMO, as well as chief commercial officer. To say that he's lived the go-to-market life is clear. Today, he's a functional leader with the CMO group at Pavilion, as well as the founder and chief growth officers at If Associates. Jeroen's a proud servant leader and is helping people grow together while making an impact and having fun. His mantra is growth through togetherness. Welcome to the podcast, Jeroen, and thank you for joining us.
Awesome, man. Thanks for the intro and thanks for having me, man. It's excited to be back and having a conversation together, man. I missed that.
I know I got Jeroen had me on his podcast years ago where we talked about, I think, go to market, but then we also had an ability to have some whiskey, and it was a lot of fun to do that.
100%.
Yeah. So as we get kicked off, can you share with the audience a little bit of context around your world? What industries or verticals do you work in? What are the selling motions? Like, what size companies do you work with?
Yeah, cool, man. I will do that. So, thanks for the intro again. Right. So I'm currently a founder and chief growth officer of If Associates. So we help teams there to basically build one GTM team through interconnected processes, workflows, leading and enabling the people in the teams and building agents and those kind of things. So it's focused on tech and software, but at the same time also I think the methodology can apply actually to other verticals as well. So I've been this year I've had an assignment to help like startups in Qatar on their expansion strategies, and that has been companies from manufacturers of chocolate through cybersecurity companies. So it's a lively world. I must say I'm coming from the corporate playfield, but I will tell you more about that also when we go further into the conversation. But I'm liking it now in companies who are in the startup scale-up mode.
Yeah, nice. It's a big part of the fun because you get to build or establish whichever one,
Exactly.
or even
Build,
rebuild.
establish, iterate, and adapt and adopt. Right. I think it's all about that, especially when you said, man, we're now in the wonderful world of AI. It's about adapting and adopting, but also about not what you don't want to adopt. I think that there's the crucial fact of saying no. If you say yes to everything, it will probably be too challenging.
Yeah, agreed. So how we got to the topic today is Jeroen and I had a quick chat, and I said, hey, what's a successful revenue initiative you've led or most challenging initiative you're solving or have solved? And he pretty quickly and with passion said, it's building one go-to-market team. And so there are a couple different podcasts that I've actually recorded. Jonathan Tyson, I talked about rewiring the go-to-market team. We've had a couple of topics around, aligning sales and marketing. And we've sort of spoken around this one go-to-market team. So maybe to kick us off, I'll ask the question to start, if you're okay with it, is how come building one go-to-market team is just so challenging?
Yeah, there are lots of variables and moving parts in it, right? So I think that the fundamental thing is I think culture
Mm,
and purpose, and I can tell you a little bit more on that.
yeah.
And so I think on your introduction about me, right? So thanks again for sharing that. I entered the wonderful world of GTM or commercial. Probably it was more at that time, right? Because I think, what is it now, 18 years ago or so? If you ask people, do you do go to market? They say, yeah, we do product launches, right? So I think the whole phrase around GTM was more predominantly focused around commercial and acting as a commercial team. So I had some initial stints in sales and product, where I actually just felt that the departments were not really connected with each other, right? In that commercial or go-to-market team, as you would call it at that point in time. And when I started to work for a technology business in 2009, was in a marketing type of role, right? And as a lot of marketeers probably at that point in time, it was just more or less getting orders from the sales function, right? So make sure that you get leads, creating a one pager, build events, and those types of things. And I delivered upon that, but also felt that I was less connected towards the actual growth strategy of the business, right? And maybe I was a little bit young and naive at that point in time, but I took a calculated risk, and I think that is kind of a red thread, which I will emphasize more on when we talk throughout this thing. Because if you want to build a one GTM team, you need to step forward. If you stay in the comfort zone, nothing will change, right? Then the sales function will optimize, the marketing function will optimize, the product function will optimize, etc. Right? So what I did, we just got acquired by a Swedish listed business. So I young walked into the MD's office, sketched my vision around one commercial team with interconnected processes, growth targets that were interconnected between sales, marketing, product. And I said, just give me 9 months in order to prove this. I set clear milestones, and off we went, more or less. Of course, then lots of other challenges will arise, but it's about taking those calculated risks. I think that is very important, because um, um, sketching a one commercial team on paper, I think lots of folks can do that, right? But it's the path towards it. That's
Mm.
a true transformation, and you need to take calculated risk as a reader and step forward.
It's typically the execution where things fail, right? Ideas come together, and then when it comes time
Yeah.
to get it launched and go, that's where it falls apart. Now, before you dive into how this all came to be, when you were talking a little bit about, not having connection, but what was the moment that you said, "Hey, you know what? There's something wrong. I see a different path, and this is the path I think we should get to." What was that moment that spawned you to go, "We need one go-to-market team"?
Yeah, so I think the moment was more or less was 2010 or so. I believe, when I had that full year running, and the planning motion, so to say, we were in that, and I felt a little bit disconnected from that. But also I saw that we didn't get the maximum value out of the team and the people, because I felt that those were a little bit disconnected, so to say. So in that moment, you start to have conversations with individual members from the teams, and you start to kind of collect insights for that vision. Yeah, and then I stepped forward. So it is after a year of execution, you feel that you have taken a part of execution for your particular department, but you
Mm.
felt that you didn't grow as one team, and that was the moment for me that emphasized on, hey, let's have this conversation. higher up. But first, let's speak to some individual team members of the different departments in order to get their insights in, but also to get their buy-in in, right? Because this is not something that you can do alone. You need to have some advocates actually to help you drive the execution and move people forward. Because the challenge, obviously, in the beginning as well is if you're appointed, let me make it very direct, right, and explicit. If you're appointed as a CRO and everybody reports to you, then you have a direct reporting line. I didn't have that. I need to build and create the influence, and that's a different path.
Where did you start to see that the disconnect was coming? Was it part of the planning cycle by chance? You saw, hey, product was doing their own thing, marketing was doing their own thing, sales was doing their own thing, account management, customer success. Was the problem statement that you were trying to solve that they were all doing their own things without being connected to say, hey, cool, marketing, you do that over there, but it's actually going to impact the product launch that's supposed to happen at the same time, and the account management team isn't going to know that these things are connected and people are confused. So was there some sort of like aha for you to go, these things don't connect and we have to solve that?
Yeah, so I think there are mostly two parts when I look back at that point in time, and what you still see happening. There's obviously a level of disconnectedness or connectedness, and I think on some parts, right, we definitely had good things going on, right. I think the product and the messaging and how we positioned ourselves on for example, certain type of events, I think that was okay connected. But when you look actually at the whole process down the line, and the whole sales methodology, for example, there was the conversions were not on the right level, and that's where I saw that we needed to do improvements, and because the processes and the structure were not truly connected, we were able to deliver some, I think I would say, good tactics, maybe some good actions, but overall seeing the whole process failed to improve on maximizing, or at least improving, I would say, first the conversion ratios, because it started from a revenue standpoint, right. I think the one commercial team is, a lot of it comes down also to the culture and the people, and in order to build that. But it for me, and I think in most organizations, it starts with a revenue challenge.
So take us back to that moment where you walked in the MD's office and you said, all right, I've got a plan.
So I sketched the one commercial team. I think that took like 10 minutes or so, right? So just drawing on a board and sketching how product, customer success, or service delivery, it was more at that point in time, sales and marketing could collaborate and work together. And then also sketch some of the part of it to move towards that. We were active in like, I don't know, like 12 markets at that point in time or so. We're an international company, and we wanted to first improve the Dutch market and Dutch business. Further along the line, I learned also that internationalization is a lot about making sure you get it right in one market first, right, and then scale that to other markets. And also I failed heavily by thinking that I can just bring Dutch stuff to the German market and putting a translation sticker on it, but that's maybe for further down the line. So, and I sketched a couple of milestones, right? So in that, the first thing that we struggled with was really getting a set of meetings booked, right? New business meetings. So that's where we mostly struggled. So, and the two things that I needed to address in order to achieve that were probably a little bit more focused on the marketing part, so to say, right? So we didn't have, for example, clear personas and a buying group defined and in place, and also the content strategy was more tailored towards, I would say, a little bit more product-related focused content. So, typical thing, if you, which I still see happening, right? If we have like the first or second meeting, then it's fine. There's not a challenge, but to get the first meeting, that was kind of the challenge. But I thought, let's not approach this from a more general perspective. I instead of let marketing create those personas in isolation, maybe talk to some customers and so on. The true thing that we wanted to do is directly build a cross-functional pod or team from people from the different departments who would be responsible for getting those key deliverables in place. The whole emphasis of the 9 months was to get like a demand engine in place with two key pillars of it. Was a human-centric content strategy That was not from the marketing team, but from the whole commercial team. And having a selling process in place. So not a sales process, but a selling process in place with clear qualification in and outs throughout the process. And I would say in the beginning, it was maybe a little bit challenging also to get to the sales manager with me. But later down the line, we more or less in the same path promoted throughout the business, and he's now a good dear old friend of mine. So friction is also a good thing to challenge each other, because I learned a ton from him. He learned probably also some things from me. But it's about it's also about daring to say where you think we should improve, and sometimes these are tough battles. I think the whole one commercial team is about creating stuff together, but also about challenging each other. If I never believed in, and sometimes you hear that phrase, right? That I don't know, right? Marketing or sales is the internal customer of the other department. What a nonsense! We are all in one team. There's only one customer. That's the customer.
Yeah. You hit on something, because Kyle Lacey, he talked about this too. You said, friction's a good thing. Like, I want to see how, your point of view and my point of view, because there's something connected. Coming back to a couple of things you said, you are now changing the way you're going to market, is what I'm hearing from you. and you talked about one of the challenges or a lesson learned of, well, this works in the Dutch region. Why don't we just take it to Benelux, or why don't we just take it to whatever? How did you have to go through that process, or what are the things that you learned as part of that to say the globalization is harder than just one market?
Yeah, no, that's a very good one. So yeah, so a couple of years in, right? So in the particular market in the Netherlands, and I think so I got it became visible, right? I think we were maybe also referring to your question earlier, right? So I kind of have focused or thrive, I would say, right, in and worked for longer periods in businesses that have like a higher ACV. There was the business that had like one-off revenue and recurring. The whole goal of the whole, let's say, long-term, big, hairy type of goal for the business was to get more recurring revenue in, to come to a 50-50 balance. So instead of a 20-80, because that was it in the beginning. So the proven results of moving that needle, so to say, became kind of viable or active after 2 to 3 years, right? So at that point in time, also a new CEO came in, and that CEO was all about internationalization and reassuring that we can scale stuff to other markets, right? So including the portfolio, and it became apparent that I did some good stuff on the demand gen side, right? So I started heading and leading the marketing team, and looking back, actually, after those 3 years, and probably also the next 7 years up, I think most of the stuff which I did, and the first 3 years was maybe on, I would say, I wasn't even aware of that, to say, right? It was on the intersection of product sales and marketing, right? That true GTM piece, because nobody was stepping into that. So when you then get the assignment, so to say, to scale this across other markets, the first thing comes clear. Hey, this worked in the Netherlands, right? So how's the language, and in the other markets, where should we go first? Maybe UK is easiest, right? Because we could just translate stuff, and we have a lot of English stuff already. Blah blah blah. And I learned it the hard way, that especially if you look at the Nordic markets and so on, and but also the German markets, those are way other nuances. So one of the things is market maturity, right? So how mature is the product and the offering, and the buyer as well? What are nuances of how people buy in particular markets? Are there certain regulations, for example, important? In when scaling stuff to Germany, it became very the importance of security shouldn't be neglected, right? So when you bring offerings to the market, so in the beginning, I started to kind of translate, sticker it, and then move it on, because that's also how I kind of learned it, maybe from bigger businesses, which were our partners, right, in our ecosystem. If you look predominantly at huge tech giants in the West Coast, let's keep it like that, they just say, hey, we move stuff over to the pond, and then maybe we translate it for France or so on. But yeah, if you look at the true GTM piece, there are less nuances being placed on market differentiations, how people buy, the maturity of the market, and so on. So I started to actually learn that along the way, because it became very challenging that some of the fundamentals that we've set in the Netherlands needed to be tweaked. Like, for example, what is your ICP? What is your messaging, and so on? Because that needs to be tailored towards the market. It's not just simple translation. I learned that the hard way. And how do you feel that it's not working? Yeah, those are typical dynamics that says you get a pushback from local sales teams. You see obviously less engagement on stuff. Conversions are moving. The needle's moving less than you had in mind. So those are some typical things that I came across. So when I looked at how I started to kind of reformulate that strategy, is first get it right in one particular other market, and that was UK, and then moving it to, from there, start blueprinting it, also with the fundamentals of which elements can have local deviations in it. So that was, I think, my lesson learned and the challenges which I faced.
How did you get the team, even your marketing team, your sales team, to see that going into a different market, you needed a different approach? What was that conversation like when you said, hey, by the way, taking this document, translating this document, slapping it on the website, you know what, it doesn't work. You might have different competitors in that local competitors that you might not go against in an international space, but they're very much rooted inside of that country,
Yeah.
right? So how did you get them to start to do a different due diligence to break into a new market?
Yeah, no, fair, good point as well. So I think when I look at the markets that we had there currently, I think in a lot of cases so for the bigger ones we had footprint already. The Nordics market, for example, UK market. So and our strategy was quite centered around M&A. So buying a company and then opening a new market, or buying an additional company and opening a new market. So that was an important pillar of our growth strategy. At the same time, also sometimes you open up a new market, and then obviously the market research element becomes far more important. But how I structured my team at that point in time is when I was asked and assigned to lead the marketing for the entire business, I started to build also a demand center. So that was, I think, 2014 to 15 or so, which is basically demand center or marketing center of excellence, or whatever you want to call it. So a group of folks who work on who work for corporate, so to say, and field marketing was present in regions or in countries. So and a lot of it comes down towards just having conversations with the people in the field, reassuring that their feedback is injected into tweaking and tailoring, for example, the ICP and the messaging. It's not about asking them to deliver such a thing from scratch, but it's about what have we learned from corporate or from other markets, and what are the nuances. So I did a lot of in-human workshops in those particular markets to acquire actually those insights on how these things need to be tweaked. So and when I started in the first year, I think too fast, we kind of wanted to copy paste and overrail the market, so to say. And I had the feeling that was also maybe a little bit the corporate strategy at that point in time, so to say, because we were coming quite from a very local kind of setup. I can even maybe exaggerate a little bit here, but I'm quite direct. But was maybe at some point it was even the only thing we had in common was the logo kind of thing, right? So people had very differentiated portfolios, the messaging, and when you ask people who is that company, you get 15 different answers and so on. And I think it's all about reassuring that people are being felt and heard, and you appreciate their insights on where the local nuances are. So that was, I think, that was the way that worked, at least, to get this scaled across other markets. The way it failed was just to bring in and say, hey, just execute on this template.
Did you then look to see, I'm going to put a marketer that is local to that region, because you may not know some of the cultural differences or
the field marketing was very important there. Yeah, 100%. So and prior to having like the more corporate or group strategy in place, which I kind of established and rolled out, everything came down on that field marketing person. The challenge now obviously was that some of those tasks or more strategic tasks come now from a group level perspective, but the importance of the local nuances and the local market insights that person, not only that person, but that person as a cross-functional field marketer could bring in order to feed the strategy. Because the collaboration was also heavily with the sales, the marketing. So the local piece. I think the strategy that was formalized there on a corporate level for that business was global. So global and local.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you've taken a different approach, and you said, let's build one go-to-market team. So first question that I'll ask, when you put that in place, did you say, hey, look, I'll lead it, the sales leadership, the product leadership, marketing leadership, they'll report to me, I'll build this and we'll go through it? Or did you go to the managing director and say, look, we need to build one, excuse me, you're the person that we're all going to report to. I'm going to report to you, the sales leader, the product leader, etc. And this is going to be our mission. And here's how. What was the team dynamic look like?
Yeah, good question, man. So I think we're talking now about maybe 2015 to 16 or so. And it was a matrix organization, right? So people reported into the group function, as well as the local entity. While the local entity had quite some power, right? Essentially, they were on their P&L as well, right? So the local salespeople and so on. At that point in time, I was running the marketing team, right? And I was picking up on a lot of, let's say, opportunities and challenges that were on the intersection between sales, marketing, and product. The other departments weren't reporting to me, in a direct reporting line. So for me, it was very important, and I think in general, that you don't, if you believe in something and believe in that one commercial team, and there's no, let's say, CRO or overarching revenue leader in place, that doesn't matter, because it's about getting people to follow you because they believe in what you establish and set, and how you can realize value for them, instead of just a direct reporting line. The latter can be good as well, but it's more like, and it can be a good scenario, but it's more like don't let it stop you if it's not in place there yet. So the thing that I was focused on is how can we reassure that we build the interconnected processes, the planning, but first, how can we get the demand running up for the different markets, right? So that is because that was one of the challenges that they were facing. That comes into another challenge as well. So when I was at that, I think it was 2015 to 2016 or so, and I was generating. We still had MQLs in place as a metric, so to say. So I was generating like thousands of MQLs or so across Europe. So the content was realized. It was realizing engagement, so to say. But at the same time, also we saw that the sales team in the local market where I was at the point in time was struggling. And I was actually with the team kind of celebrating the 1,000 MQLs. And I was thinking, shit, man, this doesn't feel right. So because we can generate, I don't know, right? Maybe we can double the MQLs, but if the rest of the team is struggling to realize their their growth targets, yeah, we still all don't. We still all fail as one GTM team. So by having conversations with different players of that team and the sales team, it became apparent that we needed to have a stricter focus on customers that have a good fit with us, not only to land but also to expand. The whole project around ICP, or ideal customer profile, just originated. So and we proven value in that in one market, and again then also started to scale that across other markets. With this one also it became apparent, and that is also what I learned the hard way. Yeah, you need to have those local nuances in place as well, because an ICP in the Netherlands is different than, for example, the Nordics.
So take us back a little bit to now that you've got, so it sounds like you've put in your structure. Hey, we're going to refocus and we're going to I don't want to say reformat, but refocus on these regions for this reason. This is the ICP we're going to go with in the markets for this reason. How did the conversation across your peers sound to say, we're going to go with one team, we're going to change the way that we plan and change the way that we communicate numbers? What does that conversation sound like at that time?
Yeah, so it's a good question, right? So I think also there what I realized also, that there's a differentiation in how people approach these things, or departments approach these things from a maturity perspective, right? So some markets had kind of plans which were, I don't know, right? It's almost like a list of tactical things to do, and the sales team had basically a number and quota to achieve, right? And in some other markets they were more mature, right? So they had some interconnected revenue numbers established. They were working in a kind of campaign/GTM format, where sales and marketing established teams together, started to create targeted account lists and so on. So there was kind of a big differentiation between maturity. So one of the first things I started to actually build then is get maturity frameworks in place for the different departments, and go into conversation with some of the local markets that I wanted to prioritize, right? Because you are in this case I was with 15 markets, but obviously there are markets which were driving a higher percentage of revenue than others, and had also a different role in the whole growth of the business. And those conversations were sometimes challenging, right? Because in some markets still it was sales that has a number, right, and a number to achieve, and they said, yeah, marketing, I need just more leads, and just delivered me to it, and then it will be fine. So the conversations around just having, I would say, a clear understanding, a clear shared understanding on what's the current state and situation of that particular variable or line item, I would say, in the strength of that department or that market, and how would we want to improve that, and what is needed for that. So which actions are, for example, needed in order to increase our recurring revenue in the particular target market for the Netherlands, right? We really established those together. So it was not like you're scoring this, and just let me know in a few months where you're at then. No, it's about really going into conversation. What is needed in order to become better every day? And I think becoming better every day and the whole growth together, those became actually real cultural values. And I think that is also, when I look in hindsight now, and that maybe became kind of we established those, maybe I think around that period, it became important that in order to become better every day and improve as a team and department as part of a team, as part of a one GTM team, you need to have a set of cultural values in place, because those cultural values help you to steer if you're going in the right direction. If you're not actually acting on those values, yeah, it becomes less of a conversation I think you're right or wrong. No, the values steer the right direction. So I think looking in hindsight, we started to build those, and I think we established alongside that, I think 5 or 6 or so for the commercial team in a period of a year, I believe.
So now that you've got everybody, it sounds like you've got product understanding what the markets that you're going into are, and the nuances. You've got sales. You're digging into understanding the nuances of the selling motions, because I think you said, back to what you said, it wasn't around a selling methodology, it was a selling motion or something. How did you say that earlier on?
Yeah, so no, I think in earlier on it was, so what you see often, right, is there's a sales process in place, right? But as a one GTM team, I think it became very important and relevant to have like a selling process in place, because then it's clear in what step, what role marketing plays, product plays, sales plays, etc. And yeah, if you want to have it like I would say even better improved, I would make sure that especially for your higher value target accounts, that it's connected towards how buyers also buy, right? So the selling methodology or the selling process connected to the buying process.
Now that you have everybody focused, and what it sounds like to me is that you and the team changed to say, we're going to focus on the revenue number, and how do we get to the revenue number, and the impact or the place that each function plays to get to that number is what it sounds like. Okay. Now that everybody's rowing in the same direction, if I use the analogy, we're all rowing in the same direction, we're all trying to get there.
At that point in time, by the way, Carl, a product was not truly in yet. I think that the whole no. So a product was because I think the trigger point to get product in. A product was, I would say, so they were very strong with creating the product and having like product type of messaging and positioning, but they were not part of the way we actually go to market. So one of the transformational projects I led, and that one was also I just brought that at that point in time, again, new CEO. I think we changed more or less around 2 to 3 years or so. I brought a transformation kind of framework on, instead of going to market product focused, to get to market more problem focused. So to start with the problem that we solve, and we got product also alongside that. So for each part, like starting with market research, defining the target accounts, reassuring that you create the right content and so on. Product was we had like different swimming lanes for each department on what type of thing they played, what type of role they played in each kind of step, and also a RASCI model applied to it, so that it's not like we bring, because again, also in the past we brought maybe some of the products or offerings we kind of brought to market without truly enabling the sellers how to sell and how to identify, for example, problems that are tied towards these products that we created. So I wanted to just emphasize on that. I think that was some of the things to get also product actually truly onboarded on it.
It's interesting that product was the last one to jump on board, because having a connection from the product to the market and how that comes together with the selling aspect of, here are the nuances that I'm seeing. I would have thought it would have been, admittedly, I would have thought that sales would have been the last one to sort of jump on board. But
so I can maybe tell a little bit about why. So we are quite sales-led business. I think from looking at the product department in itself as its own department was only established around 2018 or so. Most of the product related stuff was actually done in the on a few people on a central level, and sitting mostly with the kind of pre-sales department in the local markets. So to have like a mature product department, that was only established later on. And maybe my learning here would be, so I think 30% or so of the people who worked in the business were in the sales team. So that was the biggest win, was also to get that team aligned, right? And to get that team as a commercial player aligned, because it's also about making choices.
Mm-hmm.
If you're more like a product-led business, maybe you should focus first on getting alignment, and building the team out with the product leader, whatever other department you're coming from. Right? I came from the marketing department, but it could just have been someone from the sales department or the customer success department. That doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting that you pull that learning out of it, because on paper, like you said, going back to the very beginning, on paper, it makes sense. We're going to have one unified team with shared metrics, shared vision. We're all going to have our own place as part of this function, and we're going to get it to go. But it does come back to the thing that I think I said earlier, is like, it's the execution where things fail. Oh, it's a great idea. Who's going to do it? Ooh.
Yeah, it's execution, right? And someone needs to pick that up. And in some scenarios, people are appointed towards this or hired or whatever. I just didn't wait for that, right? So and it's about taking. It's of course you're going into I would say a point where, in the Netherlands you say holy houses, right? Are there? So like those are like it's territory which has always been the decision or the territory of that other department, and you're now stepping into a kind of an area where you might be stepping on some people's feet, but don't bother, right? It's all about that vision, and if you have people with you who also believe in that vision and that purpose to drive that, that's I think one of the most important things. And then and for the execution piece, pilot and get some people, get some few individuals with you in those particular markets who also believe in it and start executing on it. Because, like I said, right, the execution is one of the most important things, and that definitely hasn't worked in all markets. In some markets, it just doesn't work. You also need to know where you need to stop. Just leave it as it is, and then focus on the ones where you see the most progression.
Great point there, because you can't do everything. You said it earlier on. You can't say yes to everything. You have to know where to stop certain things to focus on the things that really matter. I know we're getting we're getting close to the end, but I'll maybe ask this one question before we go to the wrap up. You built this team once, this building one go-to-market team. You create the interconnection processes. Did you have friction internally on changing processes to a new way?
Yes.
What did that sound like, and how did you overcome the friction points so that it was the team is upskilled or retrained on the way we're going to do things, a new methodology? Like, how did you get everybody to see the vision, but also buy into this is the way things are going, and we're going to make sure that the systems and processes are going to be challenged so that it works for the new way?
Yeah, that's a very good point, right? So I think at least, and there are probably more paths and routes towards this. So let me share a little bit about how I approach that, at least, right? So change is often needed because either the process is broken, or the process is working, but it's not delivering the right output, right? As in growth for the business, or, and I approach it also from the other angle, growth of you as a person, right? Because the whole grow to togetherness, and my purpose and emphasis on this is the business needs to grow, but also you as a person needs to grow. So the first thing is also it's all about having an understanding on this, and sometimes also starting with having a shared understanding on this. So I always used to approach this from a perspective, talk with some like key individuals of that team who either are very engaged anyhow on this, or people who are actually less engaged on this, go into conversation with them. So how does they feel the process is working for them? Where should they feel is broken? Where do they think they need to improve it? What is stopping them from realizing their own growth ambitions within the business? And then kind of collect those insights, those insights from the team, because the processes are not there to just be strict and here are processes. If we didn't need any process, and realize our things, then why the heck should we have a process? So the process should be there in order to help the people grow and help the business grow. So I think the whole thing around having that shared understanding, and it can be done like that on that one also, which I use more often when I talk to when I started to engage with teams, which I serve as clients, is having like a short questionnaire. Send that throughout the team, right? Especially if teams are bigger, right? Maybe with 20 or 30 people in the team, you can't speak to everybody individually, but people want to be heard and heard and felt that that they can share their insights on what is working or not. If you just and I've filled also alongside that, right? If you just bring the process and present it, yeah, damn man, that's not working. I've made those mistakes. Like I said, I've made so many failures. Probably when I kind of got the marketing leadership role assigned in that business. So but I also at the same time started to rephrase failure. I went to I think in 2017 or so, I went to a CMO summit, and I saw a CMO talking about failure as in first attempt in learning. And I thought, hell yeah, I love that. So yeah, shared understanding, that's the thing. Don't ever skip that piece. Because you can't have a collective GTM team if you can't have a shared understanding.
I love it. And I actually, candidly, Jeroen, I have stolen that, and I use first attempt in learning as an acronym. And I stole it from you, and I'm not ashamed to tell you, because as soon as
I
you
stole
said
it
it,
as well, right? So yeah, I love that. If you got inspired by people, right? I got inspired by someone, and that inspired you. So yeah, hell yeah.
And it's a great way to think about it. Hey, is it a failure? Did you learn?
Yeah,
Because as my offensive line coach, Dan Durazio, Angus Reid is a friend of mine. He wrote a book, Thank You Coach, about Dan and our offensive line coach. Just an incredible person. And I remember one of the in practice one day, he looked at me and said, "Carl, if you don't fail, I can't help you."
Yeah, love
And
it. Yeah,
it
exactly.
stuck with me. So I have that in one ear, and then you go the first attempt in learning in a second ear, and then another. I'm lucky to be connected with this gentleman, Luciano Borsato. He talked to me, and I brought him in to speak to my teams, and he said, winning is hard. Everybody wants to win, and people want to talk to winners. And what do winners talk about?
Yeah, no, true. Yeah.
Losing. They talk about
Exactly.
losing,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
these are the things
Yeah.
you learn from, right?
Yeah.
You learn more in a loss than you do in a win. Oh, I won. Okay, things went well. Okay, we could have done this better. Yeah, but we won. Okay,
Yeah.
on the other side, hey, we did this, we didn't do this well, and we lost. Yeah, but I saw it over there. Great, you did. Take the butt out of it. What can we learn from? So I have taken this and
Love
I've
it.
used it,
Yeah.
and I love it. I know we got to get wrapped up here, and this has been a lot of fun. I'm sure we could talk for hours. But as we get wrapped up here, Jeroen, I ask everybody this at the end. Everybody likes new and nobody likes different. And when you do both at the same time, it can either cause friction or uncertainty. So for somebody thinking about up-leveling their revenue or the go-to-market teams to bring one unified voice or one unified team, what are 2 or 3 actionable things for them to think about on Monday morning to go into this new path that you've laid out for us?
Yeah. So first thing, I think, and it doesn't matter if you're in an individual contributor role, right? Let's just a sales rep, or if you're in the executive suite. I think the whole one GTM team is you need to actually implement it through all layers of the business, right? So I would say the first thing you should do, if you believe in something like this, just have a conversation with a peer that is actually from another department, right? Whether you're on, like I said, on the IC layer or in the executive team, and just get a collective understanding on this vision, and if you feel like this is common ground, it's that simple. It's very much, it starts with people and getting people alongside with you, and as a second step, I would say maybe following it on this, what is stopping you then, in order to kind of get a pilot up and running on this, that actually eliminates the, I would say, the silo, or sees the opportunity on doing something cross-functional.
I mean, great points. You can't start with everything. Make
Yeah,
one small change.
and don't wait for it to be because, oh yeah, that's an executive thing. No, this can be done on each layer.
Yeah, as a team, I've used this in other ways of like creating a Delta team, trying to bring people together to do a thing.
Yeah.
A small group, we're going to be hyper focused on certain things. We're going to run it in a sprint, and that seems to work because you can iterate and you can learn really fast. So, super help. Jeroen, somebody listened to this says, you know what? I want to ask that guy more questions and I want to talk to him more. Where can people find you to have a conversation?
Yeah, sure, man. Good, man. So you can always find me on LinkedIn. So that's being phrased here. And yeah, it was great to be a guest. But I also host a Grow to Togetherness fireside chat series. So yeah, you can find some stuff on that also on my LinkedIn profile. So I do that kind of a couple of times a year, and it's all related to how can you help to have your one GTM team to stay relevant in the market. So you want to learn more, or just join the convo, you can find me there.
Yeah. He's somebody who is incredibly genuine. He is somebody who's a incredible learner. Like I said, how he and I got to meet each other was through learning through Pavilion. And I can't say enough great things about Pavilion and all the learnings and the friendships and the relationships and the mentorship and the learnings like with you, Jeroen, that we've had. And I'm honored that you're able to do this with me and for us to stay connected, because I continue to learn from you every time we talk. So thank you for doing this.
You're welcome, man.
All right, that wraps up another episode of the Revenue Problem Solvers. Obviously, want to thank you, Jeroen, for sharing these incredibly invaluable insights today. If you can't tell, there's some strategy you can put into action. Remember, success leaves clues, and every revenue problem has the solutions. Sometimes you just need the right conversation to find it. Until next time, it's Carl with the Revenue Problem Solvers, helping you turn obstacles into opportunities. Thank you for investing your time with us today. We'll see you on the next episode.